Hey, 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 guys. Welcome back to another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. As always, I'm here with my man, Wally. Guys, make sure that you subscribe. You can find us on your favorite podcast app. We go live on YouTube as well. And I know it's been a while. Some of you guys may be looking at this, say, where were these guys? Where did they go? Life getting in the way a little bit. And we took some time off, but we're back in the saddle tonight after another nice win in South Oklahoma to wrap up what has been a 7-3 road trip for our hometown boy, Houston Astros. Wally, how are you? And did this road trip change your view of the team? Is it just I don't know. They didn't battle anybody difficult necessarily, but I feel like maybe the tone changed. Some things got fixed. There's still some flaws. Still got plenty of guys on the injured list. Let's get into it, man.
Well, it was an interesting road trip. They played a Minnesota team that they should have taken two out of three, and they lost two out of three. They caught the Cubs at the right time. I think the better barometer of where the Astros are is how they played the Rangers this week. They played a team that's about on their level. They beat them two out of three. They beat DeGrom and they beat Evaldi back to back. Jordan's unconscious. Spencer continues to pitch well. And what I really liked about Spencer tonight, as compared to what he's done the other several wins he's had, he's 7-1 now. But in a lot of these other games that he pitched, he would go 5, 6 innings. He'd give up one or two hits, and he would give up, four or five walks. Tonight, what he did is he had one walk. He gave up one walk, and he had three hits. So,
Yep.
he was
Four
really
Ks.
good as far as that goes.
Yep. They showed a graphic there towards the end of the game, or maybe it was right at the beginning of the post game show that was something that really stood out to me. It was his out pitches. So out of the 18 pitches for outs, only four of those pitches were totally outside the zone. There were two others that were kind of right on the edge of the zone, but out of 18 pitches for outs, only four were outside the zone. He was mixing things up. He was attacking the zone. Really threw off the Rangers big time tonight.
Yeah, I would say of the wins of the pitches the games that he's pitched, um, this was probably his most complete outing.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
We
he
can't to
got
go.
through.
We can't go without talking about Tuesday night's no hitter, combined no hitter.
It's funny about that is I heard people saying that, oh, it's just a combined no hitter. Well, ask the other guys, the other team that got no hit. Do they care? Then
Right.
you could have a new pitcher every inning. They still got no hit.
Yep. Well,
Imai,
it's
you know
been
what
two.
was
It's been 2 years since a no hitter.
yeah, it's been since late 24. The best thing I saw about that night is that Imai got helped out by a double play in the first inning. Uh, the Rangers had a chance to rope him, and they didn't do it. And so
Yep.
once that happened, Imai settled down, and he was good. He was real good. Like
Yep.
Dusty would say, he's real good.
Real good. It was real good. It was real good. Yeah, I
And
think
one
that.
thing else is you hear a lot of people dissing Espada, and some people talk about how does he use his bullpen, blah blah blah. I think the way Espada uses his bullpen is one of his strengths. Now it's clear there's guys in that bullpen he really doesn't trust. You
Mhm.
don't trust. You don't bring in De Los Santos tonight to run the innings he did after he went 1 2/3 last night.
Yeah.
He has a good knack of knowing when to bring in Okert. He doesn't bring him in too long. Okert doesn't throw hard enough to bust a wet paper bag,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he gets
Tonight,
guys
tonight
out.
showed you that. Tonight showed you that. He just didn't
Hey,
look
and
good
what
tonight.
else? What'd you think about Abreu tonight?
Brady looked solid. It seemed as though he's finding his spots better, which has been that that's been the problem all year for him. Was it seemed like his command was just off, and so he brought the velo down, I guess, potentially to find his command better. When you do that, you start getting smacked around because your ball is not as effective. Tonight, it seemed like his control was where it needed to be with a little bit better velocity on it. So I felt as though he seemed to be a little bit more comfortable out there. He didn't seem stiff and unsure of himself. So I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's here's an interesting. We're talking about how Joe managed his posterior off tonight.
Hmm.
You had Eric Getty went six, Pearson went 2/3, Okert went 2/3, De Los Santos went 2/3, Abreu went a third, went an inning. So Joe went all out to win this game tonight.
Yep, agreed. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. I
What'd
think
you
that
think
when
about what'd you think about the Cubs this last weekend?
oh, the Cubs, man, I think the interesting things about the Cubs is
Other than they stink.
they yeah, well, but I mean, I think part of it is they it's a team that doesn't feel like they have any identity. You've got Bregman in there, and I think they brought him in because they thought he was going to be guy to come in and become a leader and take the clubhouse and do some of that. But they're just, I'm not even going to say they're a poorly constructed team. They just seem like a team that doesn't really vibe. There's no identity there.
They look like a bunch of names.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, for a couple of years, wasn't that like that was that was the Padres' problem when they had a
Yeah.
bunch of names and they couldn't figure out how to freaking win. I mean, how many times has the Mets been that team where it's a bunch of names and they just can't
Well,
figure
that's
out
the
how to
Mets.
win?
We get a
That's
pass on the Mets because if anything's going to screw up, the Mets are going to do it. Okay, so
that's right.
Bregman as of last Sunday's game, 250, 338, 346. He's got an OPS 684.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not June. It's
to
not
put
June
that
1st
to
yet,
put
so Bregman hasn't
no
shown up to the ballpark.
to put that in perspective, your average OPS is somewhere around 705, 710.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're talking about a guy who is supposed to come in and be your dude. He's
Yep.
supposed to be the one that elevates everybody. And you can talk about all the intangibles you want to, but if your tangibles aren't there, your intangibles don't mean squat, do they?
Right. Right. No, not at all. And I think that's I mean that's those teams that kind of spend that money and go get the guy with the name, and look at the back of the baseball card, as Jeff Bagwell would say. A lot of those don't really pan out when you kind of look at some of those teams that have tried to construct a ball club that way. Again, I go back to look at the Padres when they were struggling with a bunch of names. Again, the Mets there for a while. The Yankees were struggling with a bunch of names, and not really pulling the weight that was expected of them. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what the Cubs have done. The Giants, look at the Giants. I mean, there's a lot of those clubs that go out and pay some money for a guy with a name, and it just doesn't end up panning out for them. You brought up the word intangibles, and here in Houston, the word intangibles carried a lot of weight when it came to catching, with the long gone but not forgotten Martin Maldonado. Since May 4th, this team has been without its starting catcher, Yainer Diaz,
Now let me
and
talk about that. They're formerly starting catcher.
formerly starting catcher, Yainer Diaz, and the veteran Christian Vasquez has become a huge emergency piece and a massive value, A lot of people really questioned this signing at the beginning of the season when they gave him the invite. I mean, they signed him to a minor league deal when they brought him in.
Right.
Um, this was something that I think a few of us, when he was selected to the big league club at the beginning of the season instead of Caesar Salad, there were a lot of questions and a lot of people were like, "What the heck is this team doing?" In hindsight, obviously, bringing Christian Vasquez in and up was a massive win for this team, considering your formerly starting catcher going down. Just knowing what the value that he brought, again, kind of from the tangible and intangible part of being a catcher that we've talked about here in Houston for a long time.
Yeah, he gave you some numbers about what the ERA was. When the ERA for the team when Vasquez went out or Vasquez started pitching was 5.75. Okay, since he's been catching, they dropped it to 4.98, which means their ERA since he's come in has been 3.79. The starters have been particularly good since he's been in as 3.65. The bullpen's been better at 4. The bullpen you always carry with a grain of salt, because if one guy gets lit up, that blows your whole bullpen because they just don't pitch all that much. The biggest thing I see with Vasquez when you look at the pitchers, this just seems more relaxed. It just seems more workmanlike. Even at the plate, even at the plate, Vasquez just kind of does what he does. One of the biggest things that we've seen with Diaz, and you and I have talked about it now for a couple of years. If Diaz controls the strike zone, look out. Too often, Diaz is swinging at a ball that's in the other dugout,
Yeah,
and and he, when he comes back, he's got to earn playing time.
he's going to
There,
have to.
there's, I mean, there's no surprise that since Diaz has gone out, the team has gone 12-11. Okay, that's not a good enough to make the playoffs, but the ship has been steadied,
Hmm.
and you couple that with guys coming back. Pena's come back. Taylor Trammell's come back. Would you ever, in your life, would you think Taylor Trammell coming back was a big deal? But here's a former first round draft pick who could not figure it out with Seattle, and he's come in, and the Astros have reclaimed him, and you know he's played well.
Yeah,
When you've got Jake has come back, you've got Hader that's on the way, and when Hader comes back, you're talking about a guy that can stabilize the whole pitching staff. We've
yep,
talked any number of times about how when you get a closer that's steady, everything else seems to fall into place. Now, when you talk about Trammell, he came back this series. He had a 400 average with a 500 slug and a 900 OPS. That's pretty good.
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think, you bring up the pitching there and you talk about pulling all the pieces back together. It's been kind of interesting to see this rotation management shape up for Joe since Imai's come back. You know, Burrows hasn't been horrible. Arrighetti is essential. He's your number one guy at this point. Hunter Brown is pitching tomorrow night in Sugarland, right? I think that when you start looking at the pieces that are coming back together, even missing Yiner, Correa's done. We're still missing essential pieces to this team, but there seems to be, well, Tuve, it seems to be, when you brought it up, there's kind of this calm confidence now. Jordan's come back and is just ungodly. Christian Walker has found something, figured something out. and is playing well. You've got guys like Trammell. I think I saw something that said his OPS was almost 1,000 for this Rangers series.
Yeah, it was 900.
Yeah, you've got guys like Bryce Matthews and Cam Smith that are contributing. They're not knocking the cover off the ball, and they're not doing anything wild. Cam's big defensive play tonight, robbing a home run.
Was that sweet or
There's
what?
that was amazing for a kid that has never played that position for whatever 9 months now it's been or something like that. That was ridiculous. There seems Nick Allen performing. Who would have thought that Nick Allen would do what he did during the Cubs series?
Oh yeah,
This is something. This,
that's a guy that they said when they traded for him, they traded Dubon for statistically the worst hitter in the major league hit in the
he
major
really,
leagues.
yeah, yeah.
Hey,
We we
back up to Matthews. Something you and I have talked about a bunch of times. We saw Matthews started getting better, and what we spoke to was his strikeouts dropping.
Yep.
Okay, he had 11 at bats. He had three strikeouts. Two of them were in one game. Okay, so you got a 27% strikeout rate. You'd like it to be closer to 20, but it's not 40 what it used to be. You got three hits, no extra base hits. But what you see that he's doing, so his OPS is only 657. But what you see him doing is going the other way. You see him,
Mhm.
doing the things that good hitters do when they're not necessarily, you know, knocking the cover off the ball, but they do positive things.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that if there's a concern for me out of this road trip, or I guess the last 15 games, it's still that the offense is still a little quiet, despite let's see, what did they did 46. They scored 46 runs between these three series, gave up 32, but the the stats just aren't. They're still just not
No,
great
no.
offensively.
To your point, in the Ranger series, they hit 235, a 716 OPS. So
Hmm.
what we're telling on this is that they were an average team. What they did do well is they hit 333 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah,
Eight for
yeah,
24. They had 11 of their 25 runs were scored with two outs. To put that in perspective, most teams, when you talk about two out runs, you're in the 35, 38%. So when the Astros are 44%, something like that, with their run scored with two outs, that means some guys got some big hits.
yeah. Well, and that's out of the last 15 games, they had 22 home runs. So you're relying on the long ball here, and the core piece of that has been Jordan. And so that's the kind of the question: is Jordan carrying this team back into some sort of relevance? Is it still a little bit too top heavy to trust with Jordan and Walker, and Paredes is still, he'll have a really good game and then he'll kind of go quiet for a couple of games. Um, Jordan is just hot's not even close to the right term that I'm
Oh,
looking
he's
for. I
Africa
mean, the
hot.
guy is performing as, I mean, he's elite. This is MVP level stuff. No question and no doubt about it. I mean, the Rangers series, five homers, the back-to-back multi-homer games. That was the first time in his career too, by the way, surprisingly. Reaching 20 home runs on the season, a share of the AL home run lead, but only one behind Schwarber in the NL. And he's the guy is just is ungodly. But the top heaviness, the relying on Jordan to go out there. I mean, we saw them walk him the other night.
Yeah, they got the
That
Barry
would that
Bonds
would be
treatment.
that would be easy for a lot of teams to really do.
Yeah.
I saw a segment with oh gosh, who was the guy? It was obviously some other podcast, and he said, that
There are
that
no other
400,
podcasts.
404 440 some foot home run was definitely a mistake, because if you're not pitching this guy a foot outside of the zone, you're a moron.
Yeah, well,
You know,
they talked about it the other night. Schumacher talked about it the other night about they when he hit that ball that still hasn't landed in center field. They said they threw him in off the plate 3 times, and then they threw a slider that was, I think he said, the way he described it sounded like it was supposed to miss, but
yeah,
it wasn't an awful pitch. It was just Jordan looking for a pitch in a certain spot. My word, he didn't miss it. We talked about, you talked about being top heavy. We talked about the same kind of top heaviness at the first of the season.
yep,
In the Red Sox series, the second series out that the Astros swept the Red Sox, Jordan had a similar series, not as many home runs, but he was, 545 and a 1583 OPS, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 6 hits, couple of doubles. It was, yeah, it was that kind of series. And your point is well taken. You've got, if the other guys don't hit, they will eventually decide that we're not going to we're not going to pitch to you.
right,
Christian Walker's going to have to beat us, and then Taylor Trammell's going to have to beat us, and Braden Shoemake. And Braden Shoemake's a nice story, but if you think
yeah.
Braden Shoemake's going to be your anchor guy between those two, you got another thing coming.
Well, and I think that's where we have to ask: is this type of baseball sustainable? Which, interestingly enough, we saw the guys playing a little bit of small ball the other night as well.
Yeah,
So that was really nice to see that kind of mixed into this current power surge. Catch these guys off guard and play a little bit of small ball.
yeah. This sort of ball is sustainable if you get pitching with a 3.5 ERA.
Well, yeah,
If you get
you can't
pitching
give up
at
four
a
and a half runs.
yeah, you get pitching at a 3.5, 4 ERA. You can trust 3 or 4 5 guys, and then hope the bottom of the lineup picks you up because you're going to get 4 runs.
Yep,
When you look at the Astros and where they were, and why they weren't doing well, they were scoring 5 runs a game. They were giving up 6. Well, my remedial math tells you that you're underwater.
I did see a stat as well. When the Astros give up less than 4 runs, they are a 750 team. When they give up more than 4 runs, they are just under a 400 team.
Yeah.
So that 4 run threshold is an interesting one for them, and I think that brings back into question, as making sure that this pitching staff is doing what it needs to do to keep the opposing team to under 4 runs, and of course that leaves it up to the offense to score 4 or more.
Well, and scoring more than 4 runs, and for most teams is where it is.
Hmm.
You look at the Mariners right now. I'm looking at this. They've 57 games, and they've scored 240 runs. They're not doing as well as the Astros, who are right now scoring. Get to my computer brain. The Astros are still scoring about 4.5 runs a game.
Yeah.
They're scoring 4.53 runs a game.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and that's
So,
that's interesting when you also look at the division. This division is still highly mediocre. So do the Astros need to really end up being good, or do you think they just need to end up being less chaotic? At this point in the season, still plenty of ball to play, obviously, but
what do you think? What do you think? I've got my ideas. Tell me what you think.
well, I mean, I think that if you're going 7-3 out of every 10 games, you're going to end up catching and doing good, but you're not going to spend every 10 games playing the likes of Minnesota Twins, Chicago Cubs, and the South Oklahoma Rangers. And so I think that if you're playing, 600 ball, you're winning 6 out of every 10. You've these guys have got a good chance to get to a point where when the when the trade deadline hits, you're not really questioning if you're going to sell. You're questioning what's the extra piece that we need to be able to push through to the rest of the end of the season and make the playoffs. Considering how Jordan's been playing and looking at the way that last year shaped up, Chandler Rome sent a tweet. I retweeted it earlier today, that he's convinced that if Jordan was healthy and played 100 games for this Astros team last year, they would have made the playoffs. I contend that if Jordan and Josh Hader would have been healthy, this team could have potentially gone deep into the playoffs last year, considering how, again, mediocre the AL playoff
Oh, I think there's
path
no question.
went.
And the way Jordan got hurt, it was such a freak deal.
Yeah, it was
It was
horrible.
such a it was such a
So with
freak
that
deal.
with that said, you get Altuve back, you get Hader back, you get Hunter Brown back. I'm not worried about Lance McCullers coming back. We know Correa's not coming back. I'm not necessarily worried about Yiner coming back, other than maybe giving Vasquez some rest, because kid's going to need it. He's playing 3 out of every 4 games right now. Um, if we can get those guys healthy and back and stay healthy, with some of these kind of unsung heroes performing and stepping in where they need to step in, I see a path for this team to win the division based on how the other teams are handling the season so far.
Well, when you look at the standings right now, the Astros, to have a legitimate chance, to take to take the games out of the other team's hands, to keep it in their own hands, they still got to play 600 ball the rest of the season. They play 600 ball, there'll be someplace close to 90 wins. I haven't had a chance to work the numbers. They're two games behind the A's. The A's are taking on water. The Mariners are in first place, 1 game under 500, but they're the only team in the division that has a plus run differential. They got a 24 run differential. They are the team, and I've said it since the beginning of the season. I don't care what their record is. They're the one teams. If they go to the whip, they can put everybody away. They've got the
Yep,
best talent. They've got as good hitting as everybody. They've got as starting pitching. They've got good relief pitchers. They've got a good bench. They've got a good minor league system. People get hurt. I mean, they brought Colt Emerson up, who looks like he's going to get a lot of work. They've got capital that if they need to go get somebody, they can go get them. All that being said, that doesn't mean squat. They still got to go win the games.
yep.
What the Astros have to the bugbear with the Astros right now is they've already played the Mariners, I think, 7 times, right? And
I
they've
think so.
lost six. They've lost 6 of them. Okay, so they virtually already lost the season series. So just like what happened last year, they didn't make the playoffs because they lost the tie. Okay, so they've got to go to the whip, and they can't just tie the Mariners, whoever. They've got to win.
Right.
With this division, to um, you cannot expect to get to the playoffs unless you win the division. The only thing that you've got the Yankees, the Rays, who are doing well. Although the Rays are taking on water, they've lost 4 in a row. Mariners or excuse me, the Blue Jays are figuring it out. I think it surprises me none if you've got 3 playoff teams coming out of the East. The Guardians look like they're the class of Central, with Tigers really taking on. You're talking about the Astros being hurt, the Tigers have been hurt. So much for my World Series prediction. And then
Man,
the
yeah.
and and then the Mariners.
Yep.
I don't think the A's have enough pitching to hold up.
I don't think so either. And when you look at their, when you look at their run differential, it's not great either. They're at a negative 25 run differential. They're on a 3 game losing streak right now, and they're going to play the Yankees. So the Yankees, who are on a 4 game winning streak and just crushing the ball, despite still being a game and a half behind the the Rays, who have lost
Yeah, the
four in
Rays
a
are
row.
coming. Rays are coming
If
down
that
to
tells
earth.
you how, yeah,
I'm going off script here for a second as we
go
start
for
to
it.
close it down. Managers that are on the hot seat. Okay, I've said this before, and I'm going to stick to it. Don't think a spot is may you know if
Not at
if
this point.
Dana wanted to fire a spot, he needs to go look in the mirror. Um, You know, anybody else who's out there, who's not playing. For the Giants who are terrible, for Buster Posey to fire Vitello, he'd have to be admitting he made a mistake. Who wants to?
Right.
I still say the guy who's going to be the next one to go is going to be Matt Quartero.
Yep.
You
I
look,
wouldn't
that
doubt
was
it.
a team that you they've got the second worst run differential in the American League. There's 47. They got a 47 runs underwater, which is the better part of a run a game.
Yep.
Three of their last seven, they made a little run at it, but you know they were a team that was supposed to to contend for the Central, and they've done nothing. They flat on their face.
Yep. And they're about to play a pissed off South Oklahoma Rangers team.
So they'll sweep Mobile Homa Rangers. I
Yeah.
love that. When I was at UT, we talked about the Sooners. We call them Mobile.
Oh man. Well, I'm gonna throw an audible as well. And one thing that we didn't talk about, which really was kind of the best, in my opinion, the best story of this series with the Rangers, the no hitter was something that was super cool. But we did not bring up the name Alimber Santa.
Wasn't that cool?
And this kid coming out, making his major league debut, closing out a no hitter. That is the most absurd way to enter the
Hey, did
big
you?
leagues. Is here you go, kid. Here's a no hitter for you to go finish in your MLB debut. What a first impression, one. And two, what kind of pressure to put on a kid? Welcome to the bigs, dude. Here you go. And of all places, in Arlington against the Rangers.
What I liked
What a cool story, man.
what I liked about it. They asked Santa if he knew what was going on. He's like, "Heck, hell yeah, I knew what was going on." And then they went to Espada. And he's like, "I know it's a no hitter, but I've got more games than tonight."
Yeah,
Wasn't like Blanco last a couple of years ago where he comes in.
that was on
And
my birthday, by the way.
were you there? I was there.
No, I wasn't there, but that was on my birthday because I remember Maggie joking around that she ordered that for me for my birthday.
Well, and
Special ordered that.
Mary
Well,
was
I guess that was
supposed
two
to.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Mary was supposed to go with me. She had something come up where she couldn't make it. Feeling well, we saw that. I remember watching Blanco's is his changeup. Man, his changeup was dropping a foot,
Yeah. Yeah.
foot and a
It's
half. He was
wild.
just all. But yeah, but
It
Santa
was
was so
amazing.
cool. Santa was so cool. He was, I thought he was going to come in tonight, but I guess Joe wants to get Abreu right.
Yeah. Yeah. They had him up throwing. But he didn't get a chance. And I guess it was good for Abreu to come in and get that closing done. So
So for all of this good feeling we've got, the Astros step up this weekend with the Brewers. Highway
yep.
Tangos Highway Tangos tomorrow.
Yep.
Or goes against Brandon Sproat. So if you want to get at on Star Wars nights, if you want to get all wigged out and cosplayed everything, you can go to the Star Wars thing on Saturday. And Sunday, it's The Miz against Team I.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be this might be, this will be a good test of that.
It will.
Are the Astros back? Or into what shape and form are they back? It'll be nice to be at home after the road trip. The Brewers coming to town. Milwaukee doesn't ever they don't play well in uh, formerly known as Minute Maid Field. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this goes. Milwaukee's one of those teams that I've just really loved watching and kind of remind me of some of the younger years of the Astros heydays in the way that they're constructing this team and developing pitching and bringing guys up. The Milwaukee Brewers are always somebody that I've respected over the last couple of years, and so they're playing good ball, and I think that this will be a good test for the Astros to see if they really have figured something out. The Brewers come in with a 3-game winning streak, and the Astros with their 2-game winning streak. It'll be a nice little test, I think, for our
Yeah, no,
guys.
I think it's going to be a good test. We'll find out. We'll find out
Yes, we
that
will.
this is what their play is real or is it just fraud.
Right.
What I do hope for the Astros when we close it out is I hope that by mid July it's a clear go forward or fold. Nothing is
Yeah.
worse for you for now and for the future to be an 83 win team.
Yeah.
You think you're close enough, but you're not good enough.
Yep.
And you either make stupid moves or you don't make moves and you get into this baseball part.
Yep. Yeah, I think that still 6 weeks. That's a lot of ball. I think that's plenty of time to flesh it out and kind of determine whether or not it's a team that they can actually go for it, or a team that needs to call it a season and try to get ready for, in my opinion, 2028. Because I think 2027's
I think
we'll
2027 is
see
going to
how it
happen.
goes.
I think the best thing
We'll
about
see.
this, the best thing about this road trip is you go to a road trip. I don't care if it's the Twins, the Cubs are still a respectable team, as are the Rangers, even though we give them no respect. The you went 7-3 on a 10-game road trip. Nothing to sneeze at.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. Not without a day off. So good stuff, man. Well, it's good to be back in the saddle with you, my brother.
It's very good.
Guys, as always, give us a like. Hey, leave us a comment on Spotify. Find us on Twitter, X. Give us a shout out there. Don't forget, all of our video podcasts are headed over to YouTube now. So go find us over there and give us a subscribe. Until next time, go Stros.